Today I would like to build another custom for my junkyard diorama, and it's going to be a garbage truck, something that I don't have, and I want one that looks vintage. This one is a little too modern for the junkyard, so we're going to take this 1965 Ford C900 and use it for the cab for this garbage truck. Let's get them cracked open and begin. This is a really nice casting. I love Matchbox. There's nothing wrong with this or anything. It's just I wanted a vehicle that looks vintage instead of something that's modern. Look at that, it's got 3 seats in the cab. Nicely detailed. I'm not exactly sure what kind of truck this is. I've been trying to look it up on Google. I'm going to give it one more try. It's a Scania P360, made in Germany. And it's a nice representation. Unfortunately, it's just too modern and different for the junkyard, so we're going to continue on. Let's get this one cracked open. In one of my last videos, I took this same casting and made a fuel truck. And I like how it turned out, and I think it would be good to have another one to put next to it, except this one will be a garbage truck. And we'll paint the cab a totally different color, so we don't have 2 yellow trucks. Let's get the mounting pins drilled and get them taken apart next. Alright, I have both the vehicles prepared. Mounting posts are drilled. Let's get them taken apart and start doing some investigating. We're going to need this cab. We're going to need those windows. I'm not sure if we're going to cut it in half or not. Let's get this cab taken off. First thing we're going to have to do is remove the interior section from this. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of the way. That's definitely in the way. We'll start there. Wow, I didn't realize this was such a wider casting. I guess it's not too dramatically wide, but wider than I thought. I think it's going to be fine though. Let's go ahead and cut this next. Just going to use your standard razor knife to cut through this. It should work. I'll spend a few minutes scoring that, and then we'll probably just snap it off. I ran my razor knife through there several times, and that took it off. Well, it's pretty smooth. If I need to, I'll take a file and make it smoother, but that might be good enough. Now let's see how it fits. Alright, we really made no progress at all. This mounting pin keeps hitting that. So, let me see what I want to do with that. Maybe I'll drill a hole in this or remove the mounting pin. Let me study on that. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of this tab that sticks up. Just going to snip that off, and then I think I'm going to drill a hole for the mounting pin to slide through. I'm going to do that next. Get rid of that. It looks like I'm going to have to cut the chassis in half. It's just not long enough. Even if I could get this to go down, it's not lining up with the wheels. What I really needed to do is come down right there behind the gas tank. Looks like right there would work. Right there where that mud flap is, around there. Looks like more like right where the mud flap is. Well, I'm going to try to get this to fit, and then I'm going to have to cut it somewhere and extend the chassis. I'm going to drill a hole for the mounting post to go through. I kind of got a mark there. Once that slides down, I'll be able to fit it. I'm going to cut these little pieces off that stick out, these little mud flaps. I'm going to cut those mud flaps and drill that hole next. Alright, I got the first mud flap cut out of the way. I just sliced it here and then in the back. We'll do the same thing on this side next. Alright, I just gotta take the file and make that hole a little bit bigger. Okay, after getting that on there the way I wanted, I just drilled the hole and cut the mud flaps out of the way. It's sitting on there pretty good. This almost fits. I might not have to cut the frame in half. There's just some kind of little thing sticking out back here, like hoses for air brakes or something. I had to do this last time I used this same casting. I had to grind those off to make space for the tanker truck that I showed you. I had the same issue with this one. If I grind those off, I think this will slide right down and where it belongs. I just need to get rid of those hoses. So I'll take the Dremel tool and shave those off, and then this should fit, and then we'll have to figure out how the interior stuff's going to work. I'm pretty sure the interior is going to work out. We'll find out, but I'm going to go ahead and shave these off next. Alright, I went outside and did this because it makes such a mess. I would have filmed it, but it's dark outside right now and it's hard to see. If I need to finish it up anymore, I'll use a hand file. But let's see how it's going to fit now. That might be enough. Wait, it's still too tight. Still a little too tight. Yeah, maybe I can sand some of this. There's a little bit sticking out there. So close. Very close. I'm going to try that. I'm going to spend a few minutes sanding the back of this. Well, as much as I didn't want to cut the chassis, it's just going to have to be extended. You can see the mounting pin is not lining up in the back, and it's off quite a bit. So I'm going to have to cut it somewhere and make a little bit of space. Oh, it's so close. But when you lock this mounting pin in, you really can see how far it's off. So let me study on the best place to cut it, and I'll do that next. Okay, the more I study on it, I think I want to cut this front end piece off right behind the mounting post hole. And then we'll use the C900 original chassis for the front. And I think I can cut it to fit right inside here. If I cut this off, then I'll have access to this little cavity. Then I'll cut this one, but I'll cut it back here and then trim this down to fit inside right there. And if that works, that'll solve all my issues. So I'm going to try that next. Start by removing this front section of the garbage truck. Alright, the front section is removed. Now I have access to this open cavity on the bottom. Next, I'm going to cut the back section of this chassis. I think right here is fine. Next, I want to cut right inside these frame rails and remove the gas tanks and the two side pieces next. Alright, I scored it a bunch of times, got that side. Now I just want to do the same thing on the other. Alright, I did the same thing there. Alright, the piece slides in like I wanted, and it fits right in there perfectly, so I can, well, maybe that's going to work. It looks like the front end's awful high. I'll figure something out. Maybe I'll have to put a shim in there. Let's see. Alright, I've been studying on it. There's a piece that sticks out from the interior. If I add that thickness to what's already sticking out, it should make everything line up. So I'm going to carve this to the same shape. They already fit together. I just need to take the back off and then make this more narrow in the center. I think once I put these two pieces together, it should take up the gap and make everything line up like it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up next. Alright, now I'm just going to make it more narrow. I got that piece trimmed out the way I wanted. Let's put the truck together and see how it fits. Alright, that's much better. It looks like it lines up evenly. Oh, too bad the wheels are different. But that shouldn't be that big a deal. Maybe I can put these other matching wheels on here. I'll check that out. I'm going to go ahead and glue the two frame pieces together. So I think once I do that, we can start the weathering process. Let's get that part done. I'm going to mix up some epoxy and I'm going to apply it on top, and I'm going to use it to fuse these two together. Right, we got our epoxy. Alright, I got the wet epoxy. Let's press these together. Alright, I think that's where I want it. I'm just going to let it dry. Now we don't need this tab sticking that on the bottom. Go ahead and get rid of that. One more final problem to solve is the wheels. I like this wheel, but I don't like that it's red. I'm going to go ahead and take those out. I don't mind the gold wheel that came with it. I'll just paint it white in the middle. I'm going to take the original wheels off of this pin and put them on the pin for the Ford instead, because they're not the same. The Ford pin is way longer. I'm going to cut that in half and put these wheels on it and then reinsert it in here and glue it together. Alright, I'm going to get these wheels out. I'll just cut the pin right in the middle. I'll do that next. Alright. Alright, we don't need those red wheels. I'm just going to slide these back right in this spot here and put some glue in the middle. And then after the glue dries, I'll put some epoxy to make sure they don't come out. I'll do that next. Gonna apply some glue. Alright, I'll let that dry. Alright, I'll just let this sit and dry. If you were doing this and you wanted it to dry super quick, you could put baking soda on top of it. Also, breathing on it with your hot breath, believe it or not, the humidity in your breath will cause it to heat up and dry faster as well. But I don't think anything works faster than the baking soda or any kind of fine powder. I have some blue paint left over from a project. I think I'm going to use that color for the interior. Get that painted next. I started to mix up my own shade of orange, but I wasn't happy with how it was turning out, and I forgot I had this orange by Apple Barrel, which is the perfect color for a garbage truck. So we're going to use this instead. I also want to take this wire brush and degloss this paint and the back of this just a little bit to help the paint stick. So I'm going to spend a few minutes going over this, and then we'll get to the paint. Okay, I got those areas deglossed. I went over this as well. Sometimes I use a liquid deglosser, but since the back of this is plastic, it wouldn't do anything with that. And this is so small, I just used the brush. But anyway, we're ready to go ahead and paint this area orange. I think I'm going to paint the roof white, so I'll probably do that first. But I'm going to go ahead and do a primer coat on the back just to make sure this is the color that I want. I think it is. It's probably going to take a bunch of coats, but I think that color is going to work. I went ahead and I painted the steering wheel black and the shifter black. I might put another coat on the blue. I'm just noticing it looks light in a couple spots. I painted some white around the frame area. I'm going to put a black wash on that. I painted the tanks chrome. I'm thinking about leaving the wheels the way they are. Kind of like how they look. I put some running lights on the grill, made those yellow. I had all the orange coats on the body that I think are necessary. I painted the mirrors chrome. I left the Ford symbol showing. I left the headlights showing. Got the horns painted. Got the running lights on the roof painted. I think it's good enough to put together and do the final weathering process. So let's start assembling it now. Put the windows in. Guess we'll put the back on first. I'm not going to glue it yet because I might want to take it apart one more time. Get the cab placed. Looking pretty good so far. All I got to do is glue the front clip in, paint the chassis. I think I'll go ahead and glue the front clip down and paint the chassis next, and then we'll move on to the weathering process. We might put some decals on it too. I also added some yellow marker lights in the back. I'm also going to add some red ones and maybe a couple of white ones. Alright, I'll let that dry. Alright, it's all put together. We just need to dirty it up a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of rust and the logos. I'm going to do that next. The first decal that I'm going to add to the garbage truck is going to be the one that says Middletown right there in the center. And I'm going to cut that stencil out and try to place it right here. I'm going to do that next. Probably going to wish I didn't glue the back of the truck on here now, but I'm going to try to make it work. As long as it doesn't move, that's where I want it. I think I got it. Oh, not quite. Try it again. I'm surprised that did that because I pressed really hard. Let's try it again. There we go. Now it says Middletown. Use this green Burlington Northern for the next decal. See if I can try to get it lined up right in the center and then do the same. That's where I want it, I hope. Okay, we got that one. It looks pretty centered. Try to do the same thing on the other side. It's really hard to judge, but I think that's where I want it right there. Let me go for it. Alright, not bad. I got 2 more of those little tiny green logos. Same logo, but smaller. One's a little damaged, but I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway. And I'd like to put one of those maybe where they have the shell symbol, right here or right there. I'll study on it, but I'd like to add one more. Okay, the more I study on it, I like it better on the door. And I think I'm going to put it right here. Oh, I got that one a little crooked, unfortunately. Every time I do a smaller one, it seems like I end up making it crooked somehow. Alright, I'm going to try it right there. Hopefully that's where I wanted. Okay, I did a little bit better. Too bad the decal's a little missing there, but that's not my fault. I'm going to try to add that no smoking symbol somewhere on the vehicle next. I think right there would work. Alright, we have a no smoking symbol there. I added a danger sign here in the back. Alright, I added another no smoking symbol there. I think that's a no smoking symbol, just a different color. Alright, now I want to put a black wash on the grill. We'll let that dry. I added some other details in the back with some black paint, some hoses and things. Now I want to do a black wash over the body, especially the back. Alright, I think it's finally finished. We can take it over to the diorama and get some footage. You could keep going if you wanted to, but I think this is good enough. I might paint the drive shaft black before I move over there, but I think that's about it. Let's see what it looks like in the diorama. Well, I think this sums up our 1965 Ford C900 Matchbox custom garbage truck. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And if you really want to support the channel, hit that hype button if you can. And you could also check out my eBay store. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Well, hello everybody. That was a fun ride, wasn't it?